YouTube, what's going on? So we have our first real look at one of the newest Season X heroes. He will be released in the new season. I think it starts May 29th, depending on where you live in the world. Could be 28th, could be the 30th. But the start of Eden, this guy is going to be one of the two new heroes. So the devs did give a little teaser on the Discord and through like Weibo and other, forms of information where they send out this stuff. All this information here that you'll be seeing in this video was found on WeChat or Weixin. I actually just got these screenshots from a user on the community Discord. If you want to join it, it's always in the description. You can join on your computer, phone, whatever. The user is named that one Alex. He's in TMS. I don't know if these are his screenshots or if he was just sharing them, but I basically just copied them off of him. So shout out him. Anyway, here we have Old Lord Theodore. So on my stream, on the last live stream that I did, usually I try to do them on kill event nights. We basically saw this hero. We saw his background, saw his lore, and tried to theorize what he would be. We assumed basically either a fighter hero or a general attributes hero. It turns out he's going to be a fighter hero. So like I said, this was found on WeChat. So it's been like machine translated. So you can see here it says Arms Warrior. That basically just means troop type fighter. So he's going to be a fighter hero, and then hero positioning support. That's like the he's basically just a support. He's probably going to go in the middle. That's where all the supports have been ending up in the current meta. That's just how the meta is shaping out to be. So you can expect him to just be a middle row support hero, fighter troops. There you have it. Outside of this, we actually have some more information. So this is the more pertinent stuff here. We can actually see this vertical painting detail stuff is pretty much just like background on his visual or on his character design, his graphic design. So this isn't terribly important. It just kind of says like, oh, he has this big mechanical fire stick. Again, everything is machine translated, so a lot of this stuff doesn't really make sense. But yeah, that's this basically that you can see here is the thing that he's holding, is all it's talking about. So don't read into it more than you have to. He also has this special fuel thing, the like little capsule that he's holding. Who really knows what any of it's talking about? But we do have information on his skills, and that's the part that we care about. So his second ability, or what it says 2 skill, is going to be a combat skill. Hellfire. This is basically his big fire staff. With all of this information here, we don't have numbers. We don't have specific numbers. So we don't know the chance of anything to happen. We don't know the damage that it deals. We don't know, if it reduces or buffs or debuffs or anything like that. So take all of the information with a big, big, big grain of salt. Even when we do get the actual numbers, before heroes go through very, very rigorous testing, like basically a season or like half of a season, you never really know. The damage formula in the game right now is very, very convoluted, as well as, just the raw amount of heroes that all have very special interactions. A lot of things don't work, or they don't work as written, or they don't work as intended. There are hidden variables, there are bugs, so it's not something that you can just sort of look at and say like, okay, this guy's going to be super strong. But that's what we're going to try to do here. Now, his second ability, Hellfire, it's a combat skill. There's a chance to cause high damage to multiple random teams of the enemy. If the target team is in a negative state, it will receive additional direct damage. So, first things first to know about this negative state that it's talking about is essentially a damage over time ability. There are many damage over time abilities: bleed, curse, burning, drowning, poison. I'm sure there are more. I don't know them off the top of my head. These are caused by other heroes. So like Flare, for example, or, Diver for drowning, Poison, Curse, Venom Walker. So there are heroes that basically just apply a skill, and then every single round, whoever has that skill applied onto them is just going to take a little bit of damage. That's what this negative state stuff is. So throughout this video, I'll be talking about it, referring to it as damage over time, DOT. That's kind of the gaming lingo. So basically what this is saying is that it's going to cause high damage, which generally means nothing, to multiple random teams of the enemy. If they already have one of those damage over time effects placed on them, they're going to take more damage. That's So when it says multiple random enemies, is it 3 enemies? If it affects every single enemy at a very high percent chance, let's say a 70% chance or something, this could be quite good. You can already see here that you pretty much need heroes that do this stuff. So again, like Thunderbolt, or like, yeah, Venom Walker is pretty bad, but just as an example, having a Venom Walker on your team who's going to apply these negative states or this damage over time, and then this hero is going to synergize off of that. I'm assuming without synergy, without other synergy heroes, Theodore, this guy here that we're talking about, is going to be really, really weak. So just keep that in mind as we continue on. All right, so his 5th ability, it says it's a pre-battle skill. That just means it's a prep skill that we're all accustomed to. It happens at round 0, at the very start of the map, or at the very start of the battle. Even if he gets CC'd, this ability still is kind of in effect, sort of in the background. So Mark of Burning Flame inflicts the following effects on enemy squads that are in a negative state. So again, that damage over time. Each state increases the damage they receive and reduces the healing they receive. Okay, so again, basically if they're already put in that damage over time, and then this ability is used, it's Theodore's turn. Anybody who already has, that damage over time is going to take more damage, and they will heal significantly less. Is this going to stack? I don't know. If it stacks, then this hero is super, super pigeonholed into specific APCs where you need a lot of this. You'll need Flare and Venom Walker. Again, these heroes aren't meta, so that's kind of why I'm talking about them, but there are meta heroes that do these. So if it stacks, you're going to basically need multiple heroes that do that. Scarlet Siren, and there's a lot of heroes that actually apply this stuff here. So, I mean, whatever. This ability, it's probably going to be pretty strong. Anytime you increase the damage that a troop receives, damage is currently it's the strongest offensive stat that you can generally upgrade on a base. So, when you see something where it says increases the damage that they take, that's going to be generally a very good thing to have. Reducing healing is also great, depending on the APC that they use. But you must consider that not every single APC does heal. So APCs like Nightingale, for example, don't heal at all, which makes this pretty much useless against those heroes. Now, let's move on to his 8th skill. If he synergizes with himself, that would be pretty good. But it's another prep skill or a pre-battle skill, Witchcraft. The enemy team in a negative state, same thing, will receive additional damage when calculating the damage. And when the damage is caused to all teams, the damage caused will be reduced by a certain percentage, can be triggered every turn. Okay, so there's a lot to break down here. I'm going to try to break it down into sections. So the first section is saying the exact same thing that we've already heard. If that enemy already has that damage over time, and it becomes Teddy's turn, or Theodore's turn, basically they're just going to take more damage. When it says when calculating the damage, that's usually, again, this is machine translated, so it will be a little different from the skill descriptions that we have. It's basically just going to mean let's say an auto attack occurs. There's a very long formula that happens to actually have that number appear when that auto attack hits an enemy. You take might, you take their resistance, you take attack, blah, 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 you take damage, yada, yada, yada. Base stats, so different troop types. There's so many different things currently in the game where the formula is immensely long, immensely complicated. After that calculation is done, the final attribute, the final stat is going to be affected by this. So that's actually the most important. It's multiplicative essentially on the final calculation. So this is really, really good. It's a really good sign that it says this in terms of his, supportability. So if you have this stuff, if you're able to synergize, and let's say just the entire enemy team has damage over time, all the time, this is going to be incredibly effective. So that's the first part. The second part is when damage is caused to your team or your APC with Theodore in it, you're basically going to just take less damage. That's all it's saying. It's convoluted, but essentially it's just damage reduction to your squad. And then this can be triggered every turn. Generally, a prep skill is always going to be usually, pretty high percentage. Sometimes prep skills are just 100%, meaning like it always happens. It's just always going to occur. The fact that it says it can be triggered every turn, it might have some percentage chance of doing this stuff. Don't really know. We will have to see. So with all of that said, I can see some glaring issues with this hero. The pros on Theodore is that a lot of his abilities are prep skills. His 8th ability and his 5th ability are both prep abilities, which means CC, hard CC, like confusion or stuns or anything like this that causes you not to be able to do anything, silence, whatever. It doesn't really affect Theodore that much. The majority of his stuff is basically just providing buffs and debuffs based on the negative state or the damage over time. His second ability is the only thing that does, and usually skills like this aren't really that important. He probably will do very little damage himself. He's just going to buff the damage that other heroes in his APC does. So that's a really good pro. It basically means he's like uncounterable, not literally, but he's much more difficult to counter. So that's good. A con of his is that he's pretty much required to be in specific APCs, meaning he has to have probably two. He probably has to have 2 heroes that will apply these debuffs. So you're kind of pigeonholed where you're going to use him, and this can also be very easily countered. I know I just said that he has prep skills, so it's hard to counter him, but I'm just saying when you have APCs, a few APCs, it's pretty easy to counter. Just the way it's easy to counter like Tuner and Nightingale, any heroes that basically just screw over auto-attacking heroes is just a flat-out counter. It's going to kind of be the same thing here. So just keep that in mind. Who knows if the percentages and the damage and the buffs are all incredibly high, this hero could be disgustingly broken. Some of the really strong meta heroes right now are currently providing burning, for example. That's kind of the number one at the moment. People are going to see drowning and say diver. It's possible diver was kind of useless last season, but the previous season before, she was she was in the meta. Maybe she can make a return. Maybe some older heroes will be making returns like Flare. I could see something like Flare, Theodore, Thunder, or like, Scarlet Siren's pretty weak, but something similar to the old APCs that we used to see. But yeah, that's kind of it for Theodore. He's basically just a pretty basic support. He buffs and debuffs, and that's basically it. The damage, I think, is going to be completely negligible. It's pretty much just amplifying the rest of your team. So, should be kind of cool. I do think that the other Season X hero who's going to come out, Grace, I believe her name is, she'll probably have, a curse or like burning or something like that. And so they can synergize together, which would be cool, I guess. And yeah, go from there. But that's probably what you can expect to see with this hero. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Hopefully we'll get some information like this about Grace as well, prior to the season actually beginning. As more information comes out, as always, I will do my best to post it right away. I basically just got this information today. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about this hero. What APCs do you think? Like I said, I already said some. I think it's pretty obvious what APCs he's going to be in. Potentially the heroes are different, but we kind of know the structure of the APC. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you're going to go for this hero, you better save up those super tickets. All right, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.